also get upset with you when you crash their cars.
That's all that worries you, is it?
Yeah, right. The beginning is very important because you have to go quick, prove that you're quick, and then don't do any damage to the cars. It means you're cheap for a team. You crash cars all the time for the team says, listen, the guy costs us too much money.
Gilles Villeneuve, the man, the myth, the madness, called a daredevil, a showman, and a flat-out genius. There surely had to be more to this Canadian racer than just speed and style. Let's explore the life of a legend. This could be a perfect Canadian cold day in which a kid spends hours building a snowman. Or maybe he's just thinking of building faster things in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, Quebec. But far more exciting, something else was about to happen. A new driver about to join the grid of life. We're talking about the legend himself, Gilles Villeneuve. Would you believe that this young man who perceived the tick-tock of the family piano was into the madness of hearing the roar of engines one day? His old man was a piano tuner, Gilles Villeneuve, they called him, far from the kind of pit stops we are used to. Let's rewind to his early days on the track. So, after tinkering around with a hopped-up 1967 Ford Mustang, this guy became bored. Drag racing? Bored? Must have been one hell of a Mustang. He decided to get serious and headed to the Jim Russell Racing School in Mont-Tremblant. Think he was just looking for a license? We all know how that goes. Next thing you know, it's Formula Ford. Here he is in a 2-year-old car, by which time the thing is nearly a jalopy compared to the competition, and he is just winning races left and right 7 out of 10. Next was the Formula Atlantic. He did 4 years there, during which he solely ran his own car for one of those seasons. Now, if that isn't guts and glory, he even won his first Atlantic race in a pouring rain. I mean, the guy was a natural, right? By 1976, he was totally owning the series, all but one win. He won both the US and Canadian titles. Boom, give me that broom. But it wasn't all victories, sunshine, and rainbows. Gilles had a few problems. You know, those kinds of problems all of us have. But Gilles had his eyes set on the sky. Alright, let's just get into the juicy parts of this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Money was a problem. His father tuned pianos. It wasn't the kind of job to make you a millionaire. However, Gilles Villeneuve was the original grid kid. I mean, the dude was racing professionally in his late teens. No sugar daddy, no trust fund, just pure grit and talent. Money? Forget it. He was living off scraps and dreams of checkered flags. But here is the amazing part. He made more money on a snowmobile than on the racetrack. This man was a snowmobile race champion, having snatched the World Championship Snowmobile Derby in 1974. Really? It can be believed. He received appearance fees, wins in races, everything. He had been the Lewis Hamilton of the snow when there wasn't a Lewis Hamilton. In fact, his snowmobile sponsor, Skirul, even slotted him into Formula Atlantic for a year. Loyalty to one's sponsors on an epic scale. Gilles claimed the snowy winters had taught him car control when his vehicle slid. Imagine being flung off a snowmobile at 100 miles per hour. That's a bit like a high-speed spin without the safety car. No wonder he was in control, masterfully behind the wheel. And let's not talk about the visibility. 0? That's equivalent to racing blindfolded. That, however, made his reflexes sharper than a Formula One knife. Gilles Villeneuve wasn't just winning races, he was making statements. In 1976 at Trois-Rivières, he scored an absolutely crushing win over a field of Grand Prix stars, including the legendary James Hunt. That was a real mic drop. He did so well that in 1977, James asked Gilles to fill in for a few races with the McLaren team. It was his rookie season, sharing a garage with Hunt. But Gilles, he did qualify 9th at the British GP in a car that really was a dinosaur compared to most of the others on the grid. Oh, and get this, he was faster than Hunt and Mass in race pace. The British press drooled at him. They called him the next world champ. The team boss, Teddy Mayer, pulled the plug. It seemed Gilles was getting too pricey. They let a future legend go because of a few bucks. It's like letting go of a diamond in the rough. Another racing bigwig, Walter Wolf, was intrigued by giving Gilles a shot, but nothing solid out of it. Kicked to the curb with nothing in sight in F1. People around the block, Ferrari, started whispering around Gilles. It said, the legend goes, that Ferrari was looking at some drivers, and Gilles was among them. Can you hear that? The big leagues are looking at our Canadian kid. So in 1977, off he jets to Italy to discuss things with the boss, Enzo Ferrari himself. Well, this fellow Enzo was a legend in his own time. They say, when he saw Gilles, that tiny, chunky Canadian, he saw the ghost of Tazio Nuvolari, an old-time racing god. Enzo decided to give Gilles a shot, takes him down to the Ferrari test track at Fiorano. Now, Gilles is making mistakes left and right, and his times aren't exactly setting the world on fire. But Enzo sees something special, enough to offer him a seat for the last two races of 1977 and the whole 78 season. Easy enough. 1978 wasn't an easy year for the guy either. New Michelin tyres, new problems. I mean, here he is, starting on the front row at Long Beach, leading them most of the time, and then being a crash. The Italian press was calling for his head, but Ferrari stuck with him. A gutsy call, right? Then it all started to come together toward the end of the season. Second place in Italy, but a penalty for jumping the start. Kicking a man while he's down, literally. Second again this time in the US Grand Prix, only for the engine to give up on him. But then there was even more. He finally wins the Canadian Grand Prix on home turf, no less. First Canadian to win a Canadian Grand Prix, legend status unlocked. It is now 1979. Gilles is driving with Jody Scheckter. They are a very powerful duo, winning all over the place. But let's turn to that French Grand Prix. What a battle, possibly the greatest battle in all of Formula One history, with René Arnoux lap after lap, side by side, with wheels touching and hearts racing. When we look at it through the eyes of our times, it is hardly different from a demolition derby at 200 miles per hour. Finally, Gilles pulls it off. Then came the Dutch Grand Prix. A puncture sends him pirouetting off the track, and he rejoins with a car missing one wheel. I mean, who does that? It tells you it's Gilles Villeneuve. Then there is the Italian Grand Prix. He could have just ignored team orders and taken the win, and maybe the championship. He didn't. That is just the kind of guy he was. By this time, he was living and breathing F1 racing. But what people could not have guessed was that those same tracks he cornered and memorized would soon enough be his deathbed.
Jochen Mass, il a heurté l'arrière et on voit voilà la Ferrari qui vient de se disloquer après avoir heurté la marche de Jochen Mass. Et vous le voyez, Gilles Villeneuve n'est plus à l'intérieur de la voiture, il a été éjecté, il est sur la droite de la piste.
May 8, 1982. Chilling if you're an F1 fan. That is the day we lost Gilles Villeneuve, that fearless Canadian who drove with his heart on his sleeve. Zolder, Belgium, May 8, 1982. Final qualifying. The clock is ticking, the pressure's on. Gilles is flat out, as always. Some said he was hunting for a pole position. Others said he was just cooling down. We'll never know for sure. Then, the unthinkable, he clipped Jochen Mass's car and his world exploded. 100 metres in the air before crashing and breaking apart. It's a scene nobody wants to see. They tried to help the guy, but it was too late. The world stopped. Scuderia Ferrari was broken. The entire world was mourning in that sport. A legend had left. This is a harsh reminder of the risks these guys take and how quickly things can flip on their heads. Gilles Villeneuve raced in 67 Grand Prix, winning 6 and standing on the podium 13 times. Not bad numbers, but they don't truly capture the essence of the man. His funeral was something that brought tears to many eyes. Perhaps his former teammate Jody Scheckter put it best. He was the most genuine man I've ever known and the fastest driver in history. High praise indeed. People adored Gilles. He was down to earth, talking to the fans like they were old friends. Another legend, Niki Lauda, called him the craziest devil I ever met. Then added, he was a sensitive, lovable guy, not just a wild man. That's the thing about Gilles. Raw talent, fearless courage, and a big heart all mixed into one package. It's a spirit this great champion took into the sport, and that, to this day, endures. Gilles' memory lived on almost palpably within the F1 community. You couldn't even attend the Italian Grand Prix without hearing his name mentioned a time or two. There was a turn dedicated to him at the Enzo and Dino Ferrari circuit, and they even painted a Canadian flag on his old starting grid spot. And of course, that bronze bust of him at the Ferrari test track. Zolder, where it all ended, even had a chicane named after him. It was a bittersweet reminder, keeping his memory alive. Of course, Canada didn't forget their hero. They named the Montreal track after him and included a big Salute Gilles sign at the start-finish line. They also had a museum in his hometown and a statue of him in a park built for him. The guy was practically a national treasure. Well, he made the Canadian stamp and was inducted into both the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame and the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame. Not bad for some Quebec kid. Gilles Villeneuve, a name that will forever echo through the history of F1. That's it for this one. If you're a fan of F1 icons, make sure to check out our other videos.